Welcome to another chilling tale of mystery and horror. Tonight, we delve into the depths of the unknown, a story of forgotten tunnels, ancient secrets, and a darkness that should have remained buried. If you enjoy spine-tingling mysteries, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories that will keep you up at night. Now, let's begin. On a quiet autumn night, the town of Ravenshade lay wrapped in an eerie stillness. Only the whispers of the cold wind danced through the skeletal branches of the trees. Amidst this silence, historian James Carter was engrossed in uncovering an ancient secret that had haunted him for years, the lost tunnel beneath Blackwood Manor. For years, James had immersed himself in old maps and manuscripts, their trembling ink revealing cryptic hints about a mysterious network of tunnels. Some whispered of smugglers using them for illicit trade, while others spoke of something far more sinister, something that was never meant to be found. One fateful night, as James sifted through a rare manuscript in the town library, his eyes caught a nearly invisible margin note. Beneath the oak where shadows dance, the past still breathes. A chill ran down his spine. He knew exactly which oak tree the note referred to. The massive one standing behind Blackwood Manor, a tree that had long been entwined with dark folklore. Without hesitation, he grabbed his flashlight, threw on his coat, and ventured into the darkness. As he approached the manor, its silhouette loomed against the pale moonlight like a spectre from another time. The ancient oak stood twisted and gnarled, its branches casting sinister shadows upon the ground. He began searching beneath its roots, brushing aside fallen leaves, when his boot struck something hollow. Kneeling, he cleared the debris to reveal a decayed wooden hatch, rusted and worn by time. For a moment, doubt crept into his mind, but curiosity was a force stronger than fear. With great effort, he pried the hatch open, revealing a dust-covered stone staircase spiraling into the abyss. With each step downward, the air grew denser, the damp chill seeping into his bones. The further he descended, the more suffocating the silence became. At the bottom, he found himself in a narrow tunnel, its walls adorned with faintly carved symbols, their meanings lost to time. The passage stretched endlessly ahead, swallowed by darkness. Then he heard it, a whisper, faint, almost imperceptible, like a sigh from the depths of time. James froze, his grip tightening on his flashlight. He turned, expecting to see nothing but empty darkness behind him. Yet the sound lingered. Swallowing his apprehension, he pressed forward. After what felt like an eternity, the tunnel opened into a chamber of stone. At its center, a large wooden table covered in ancient scrolls and peculiar artifacts. As he approached, a sudden gust of icy wind extinguished his flashlight. Darkness consumed him. Then the whispers returned, but they were no longer whispers. Multiple voices, layered, overlapping, speaking in an unknown tongue. They ebbed and flowed, growing louder, pressing against his mind. Heart hammering, James fumbled to relight his flashlight. When the beam flickered back to life, he was no longer alone. Across the chamber, standing unnervingly still, was a tall figure draped in black. Its face was obscured by shadow, its presence suffocating. Slowly, it lifted a skeletal hand and pointed at him. James took a step back, but the figure wasn't pointing at him. It was pointing at something behind him. Dread pooling in his stomach, he turned his head just enough to see. What he thought were stone walls were not walls at all. They were moving. Hundreds of pale, ghostly faces emerged from the darkness, mouths open in silent screams, whispering and wailing, their hollow eyes locked onto him. A primal terror overtook him. He ran. The passage behind him twisted, constricting as if the darkness itself was reaching for him. The voices chased him, growing more insistent. When he finally saw the stairs, something grabbed his ankle. James screamed. He clung to the stone, feeling unseen hands pulling him back. In a desperate act, he yanked out his notebook, scrawling frantic words before throwing it through the open hatch. Then, the door slammed shut. James Carter was never seen again. The days that followed the discovery of the notebook were filled with fear and unease. The people of Ravenshade whispered about a curse that had fallen upon the town. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed to have heard whispers in the dead. Of night, faint voices carried by the wind. Others swore they had seen shadows moving in the empty streets, doors creaking open without cause. One evening, the townsfolk gathered around the mayor, who looked hesitant, but finally spoke in a low voice. No one must go near Blackwood Manor. No one must enter the cellar. But curiosity was not something easily suppressed, especially among those drawn to the unknown. On the night following the warning, 4 young adventurers, Ethan, Mark, Lena, and Sam, decided to defy the caution. They were convinced that what had happened to James Carter was nothing more than exaggerated folklore or a hoax meant to scare away intruders. Armed with flashlights and supplies, they set out for Blackwood Manor, unaware that they were stepping into something far beyond their understanding. Reaching the ancient oak tree behind the manor, they found the cellar entrance slightly ajar. Ethan stared into the dark void and said with a smirk, "If there is something down there, we're about to find out." One by one, they descended the old stone steps. The deeper they went, the colder and heavier the air became, as if the darkness itself was pressing against them. At the bottom of the stairs, a musty stench filled their lungs. It was the smell of time and decay, of something left untouched for too long. Lena swept her flashlight across the tunnel walls, revealing faint carvings that pulsed under the dim glow. The passage stretched ahead, its silence broken only by their footsteps. Then came the whispers. Soft at first, almost indistinguishable from the rustling of the air, then clearer. Many voices speaking at once in a language that none of them understood. "Did you hear that?" Mark whispered, his voice barely above a breath. The others exchanged nervous glances but pressed on. The tunnel eventually opened into a stone chamber. In the center stood a large wooden table covered in ancient scrolls and peculiar artifacts. Lena reached for one of the brittle pages, scanning its strange markings. Before she could say a word, the flashlights flickered and died. Strangled gasp came from Sam as darkness swallowed them whole. Ethan fumbled for his lighter, but before he could strike a flame, a faint blue glow appeared in the far corner of the chamber. A figure stood there, a human shape draped in black robes, unmoving yet unmistakably present. Cold fear gripped them. The ground beneath them seemed to tremble. From the walls, ghostly faces emerged, their hollow eyes watching, their mouths moving in silent agony. "Leave now before it is too late." The voice was not spoken aloud. It was inside their heads. Panic took over. They turned and ran, but the tunnel had changed. The walls were closer, shifting, breathing. The passage was no longer just a passage. It was a living thing. Mark stumbled and fell. Ethan reached down to help, but something latched onto his wrist. A hand, but not human. Shadowy and elongated, its fingers wrapped around him with an unnatural grip. Ethan screamed and yanked himself free. The darkness was alive, rising, shifting, into figures with hollow faces and whispering mouths. Lena grabbed Mark and pulled him forward. They ran, their hearts pounding, their breath ragged. Ahead, the staircase came into view, but the cellar door above was closing. "Hurry up!" Sam shrieked. Ethan was the last to reach the stairs. With one final push, he threw himself through the opening just as the door slammed shut behind him. Silence. They were out. But something was different. The town did not feel the same. Shadows seemed longer, stretching unnaturally in the flickering streetlights. The air carried a strange hum, as if the whispers had followed them. In the days that followed, each of them changed. Sam woke every night to murmurs just outside her window. Lena saw glimpses of her own reflection that were not quite hers. Mark grew pale, thin, as if something was draining him day by day. But Ethan suffered the worst. He barely spoke. He spent hours scribbling strange symbols on his walls, symbols they had seen in the tunnel. Then one night, he vanished. The police found his room empty, except for a single notebook left on his bed. The last thing he had written was, "The shadow is coming. It has taken me. Do not look for me." No one dared approach Blackwood Manor again. But the whispers never stopped. The shadows still moved in the streets at night. And one evening, the cellar door was found open once more. This time, no one dared to close it. The legend of Blackwood Manor remains one of Ravenshade's greatest mysteries. No one knows what truly happened that night in the tunnels beneath the ancient estate. Some believe the four friends simply vanished into thin air, victims of their own curiosity. Others whisper that they were claimed by the darkness, absorbed into the very walls of the underground chamber, forever trapped between this world and the next. To this day, the manor stands silent, its windows like hollow eyes watching over the town. But those who walk too close to its grounds at night swear they hear faint whispers carried on the wind. Whispers of voices long forgotten, calling out for those willing to listen. And every so often, when the moon is just right, the old hatch beneath the twisted oak tree creaks open on its own, as if inviting someone new to descend. Would you dare step inside? If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another journey into the unknown. Let me know in the comments, what do you think really happened that night? And would you be brave enough to explore the secrets buried beneath Blackwood Manor? Until next time, stay curious, but remember, some doors should never be opened